Well, so this is a Stone Age arrowhead that my dad gave to me when I was a little girl. So my dad was a history and geography teacher, and guests sometimes brought his work home with him. But he showed me this, and I was probably doing a little project at school, or we were discussing it, and so he wanted to show me kind of real life what it was. So
and where would he have had that, or where would he?
They're actually they did them out of the ground all the time. These are really common. They're not anything fancy.
Okay. I've never seen one
around and about. But he explained how, as we'd read in the textbooks, they would have, hammered away at a wee stone to make a sharp bit and then attached it to a bit of a stick, and the stick would have been broken down over time, but we still have the stone bit. But it really resonated with me that I was holding something that ancient people held at one point, and just that connection to history and human history was something that I went, wow, that's really cool. So I squirreled it away. I don't think it's missing from a museum somewhere now. As I say, these are very common. You can pick them up any place.
It's amazing, even the way, the ridges, you can actually sort of...
Yeah, and at the edges you can see how, with a bit of I think the word was flint. I think some of this terminology is coming back to me now as we're discussing it, that they bash away with a stone and get a nice sharp edge so that you could use it to cut something or something like that. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's very tactile, and I like that it does have that connection with history. And at some point, I do sometimes, wonder, well, what am I leaving for centuries' time? I don't know that it's anything as interesting as this.
Well, I don't know. I think we're going to discover that it is. So what are some of these other strange looking objects you have here?
Yeah, so then from history, I was one of those kids who loved dinosaurs and books about dinosaurs, and I would wander around and see as many as I can. And so these are little fragments of fossilized dinosaur eggshells. So they're all broken up because they were just from a field in France, and so they would have gone over them with a plough and things. But you can see the little the rough surface. For the bigger pieces, sometimes you can see the slight curve, and they're from the south of France. It's a region that was then, so Provence region, that it was covered by water at different points of time in history, and that helped to preserve things. You got this sediment that would squash down on the eggshells and help.
Now, if I came upon that, there's no way I would be able to say to myself, I know what that is. That's a piece of a fossilized dinosaur egg.
No. So in the vineyard in France, they use them. And what will often happen is as they're ploughing up, they'll get a whole catch kind of together, because obviously there was a nest there. And not too dissimilar from within bogs in Ireland. People are used to identifying certain things that come out of it. So yeah, it was friends from France who thought nothing of this. They showed me one. So yes, this is some fossilized eggshell we dug out of the vineyard. And my 10-year-old self was like, oh my gosh! So they sent me some, and again, a precious item that I then squirreled away and had. Now, this is something you're unlikely to just come across. So this would be a fossilized dinosaur tooth. And from the form it came with said it was a Spinosaurus tooth, probably just from the size of things. Now again, there's certain parts of the world where you find these no problem. So in like the Badlands in the US and in certain areas of China, not so much in Ireland. But again, it's a big old dinosaur tooth, and that to me was really interesting. So that was actually a present from someone who knew that I was very nerdy and liked to look at these things.
Now, would you have seen these dinosaurs in like Jurassic Park or anything like that?
Yep, so as a kid and loving all these historical things for a number of years, I had decided, well, I definitely wanted to be a paleontologist. This is going to be my life, I'm going to do it. And then the reality of spending a lot of your time in a field and digging and I probably didn't have the patience for that. So I kind of went, okay, maybe I need to find a new career. And hereditary was something that I was always interested in anyway, because I'm from quite a big family, 60-something first cousins. And so at Christmas gatherings and things, you'd often have people saying, oh, look, doesn't she just look like uncle whoever, or so I was always kind of interested, going, well, can you really tell, or is that just someone thinking it? And then as a kid, I went and watched this movie, Jurassic Park, and there was geneticists making dinosaurs, and I went, wow, I think I have a new career path. So that's not what I do now, but it's how I got into it, and it was, you know, you never know how something will spark an interest and how that might lead you to something later on.
Yeah.
If I hadn't have followed that path or followed something else, it would have been it would have been fine. But just that something sparked that interest and made me look more into genetics and what does that actually mean. And then when I went to university, I did actually really enjoy the courses, so that was good.
So what's this object and why is it on the table here in front of us?
So this is a magnifying glass, which, while I don't use this magnifying glass itself, it represents the fact that most of the work I do, I need some sort of a visual aid. So I work with very tiny things. So there's whole different levels of microscope. I use benchtop microscopes to help move some of my samples around. A lot of what I do, though, requires really high-powered microscopes. So that allows us to look into particular cells. We put fluorescent labels on things so we can look at them. We use other, so those would be confocal microscopes. We also use things called electron microscopes, and those get you into the very minutiae. So looking at the gaps between tiny little contacts and things within a cell. So at a level that's just really, really, really cool, really high powered. But so this kind of represents all of that, that I need tools to enable me to really zoom down into things to understand more about.
So you're talking about microscopes and cells, and you're obviously a scientist of some sort.
I am.
So what's your name?
So my name's Niamh O'Sullivan, and I'm a neuroscientist and geneticist here at UCD. So my work is looking at inherited forms of motor neuron disease. So motor neuron disease is a disorder where the cells that connect your brain to the muscles throughout your body and tell them how to work and move, in some people they don't work as well, or they actually get to a point where they degenerate, they die, and then people can't move or coordinate their movements properly. So in the last number of years, we've gotten really quite good at understanding what are the particular gene mutations that cause it, and that's part of this genomics revolution that people will probably have heard a bit about, and there was quite a lot about the Human Genome Sequencing Project in the year 2000, and I think then a lot of people have felt, well, what has come of that? How have we moved on from that? There has actually been amazing progress made from that, and one of the things is we've been able to really start to know, okay, well, this particular sequence or this particular change within a person's cell, that's causing them to have the disease.
That's incredible that you can actually kind of narrow it all down and look at the code that's in the gene that's creating the protein, if my understanding is correct, yep, that may or may not be disrupted, and then go back to the instructions, go back to the beginning and see why. I find that incredible.
And it's taken a massive amount of brain power and researchers all over the world to do that, because just having the code or the sequence is one thing. Identifying what is that 1 in 3 billion change that's causing this is incredibly difficult. It's still a work that's ongoing, but for certain diseases we've made massive progress. So that's really good in terms of a diagnosis and saying to people, look, we know why. What we haven't gotten, where the gap still is understanding, okay, but what is that disruption actually doing to the cell? And importantly, how could we fix it, or how could we improve it, or how could we improve the cell's health? So what I would do is I work with diseases where we know the genetic mutation, and then to try and understand why that particular mutation is causing the disease, I model it in the fruit fly. So the little tiny buzzy, usually people describe them as very annoying guys, the little ones you'll see in buzzing around your fruit bowl in the summertime. Those are a model system that have been used for over 100 years.